everyone, so I will be doing a review of the film Maleficent, starring Angelina Jolie and Elle Fanning. I have to say, just in case you haven't seen the film yet, there's going to be a couple of spoilers in the review, because I just really wanted to talk about certain scenes in the film that might give away the plot and the ending a little bit. So yeah, if you haven't seen the film and you don't want it spoiled for you, maybe see the film and then come back and watch the clip. So, I loved the film because I'd first heard about the film when Tim Burton was still attached to direct, and that was about 2011, and then they started filming in 2012, and they finished in 2012, and then I had to wait forever for it to come out. And the release date was May 30th, but I actually got to see it 2 days earlier at an advanced screening. I live in Australia, and I got to see it in an advanced screening in Adelaide, so I actually got to see it before critics did in America, so I was feeling very special. But anyway, the first thing I just loved about the film was Angelina Jolie. She was just amazing in the film. Like, she embodied the character, and I think one of the producers even said that if she hadn't agreed to do the film, they wouldn't have done it in the first place. So I think it was a perfect casting choice. You really can't imagine anyone else doing the role. And I also loved Lana Del Rey's version of Once Upon a Dream. It was just a much cooler rendition of the song, because it almost sounded like, hey, Maleficent's singing this. Like, it's Maleficent's version. And I did have a few issues with the film, because, yeah, film is kind of my thing and I analyse film a lot. But overall, I really liked the film. So I'll talk about what I liked first, and then, yeah, we'll get to what I didn't like so much in a minute. So, yeah, like I said, Angelina Jolie was just amazing. And I was surprised at how much of the film she was actually in. Like, I thought, because there'd been two actresses cast as the younger Maleficent, and I think only one of them actually appeared in the film when she was about 10 or 11. And she comes out in one scene, and she's grown up, and she really fit the part of a 25-year-old, so she was looking much younger than Angelina Jolie actually is. And, kudos to Angelina in the first place, because not only is this a very iconic role, it's a very hard role to play, because everyone feels like they know Maleficent, and this is presenting a different side of her. And another thing is that a lot of the scenes, she's got her wings, or she's, casting magic. But the thing we don't realise, she can't see any of that. She's just either suspended on wires, so she doesn't have the wings to work with. And when she's casting her magic, she obviously is not doing anything. She's just moving her arms, and then they'll add in the effects later. So the way she committed with her facial expressions, she's some great aggressive facial expressions, like in battle scenes. Or there's that one scene where she makes all these soldiers that are near her wall of thorns. She just raises them up with her telekinesis and then blasts them out of the sky for no apparent reason other than the fact that she's just evil and she hates the humans at this point, because they invaded her hometown. Well, it's not really a hometown, it's like her kingdom, so to speak. And I thought it was really cool that they sort of gave the reason why she was so evil and would curse an innocent child, but they didn't go on and make her fully just oh, I never did anything wrong, I was just in really bad circumstances, like they did with Wicked. And evidently there was people were talking about how this is too much like Wicked. Can't we just have a villain who's just plain evil? They don't need a reason. But they still made her good in the beginning, and then this friend of hers from her past, God, this is really bad, I can't remember his name, Stefan, sorry, who lived near her and betrayed her. And so, yes, she went and cursed that as retaliation. But she still was kind of, Angelina Jolie described her as wicked, which I think was great. She said she had a wicked sense of fun. And she does, because in one scene she makes it rain on the fairies inside the house, and they all think it's one of the others, and then it just starts full on raining inside the house. Like, it's not like there's a leak in the roof, it's just raining inside the house. And Maleficent's just out there going like this to the house. And then when Diaval, her little pet raven, gives her a strange look, she's like, oh, come on, it's funny. She was just deliciously evil, and I found it entertaining. And even, like, the whole cinema was laughing at those bits. And so I was surprised because I didn't think that Angelina Jolie could be funny. But it's not like she was trying to be funny, it was just entertaining at the same time. And yeah, there was this one scene that I found particularly entertaining, not for anything to do with the film. There's the scene where young Aurora meets Maleficent for the first time, and Angelina Jolie, her character, just looks down at her and says, I don't like you. I don't like kids, or something like that. And I found that so ironic. This woman has 6 kids in real life. And of course, it's even more ironic because it's played by her daughter, Vivian, I think. What else? It's just so much I can't focus my thoughts. But one of my favourite scenes was towards the end. Aurora and Maleficent are walking out into this open room in the palace right after Maleficent has woken her up. And I'll get to that in a bit. And then Stefan just has this huge metal cage dropped onto her. And it's said through, like at the beginning of the film, that fairies can't touch metal. It burns their skin. And so they dropped this cage on her, and Maleficent can't touch it because it'll burn her further. It's already burning the places that it's fallen onto her. And Maleficent's disorientated. When you look through these scenes where you see through her vision and everything's moving, it's a little bit shifty. And it's like almost with the last bit of her strength, she says, into a dragon. Because Diaval, her pet raven, even in the initial release, it made it sound like he was a shapeshifter and he could change at will. But he was a raven, like just a plain old raven, and Maleficent found him and saved his life because he was being attacked by a farmer. She made him turn into a man with her magic. And so she could literally point her fingers or snap her fingers while referring to him and turn him into any creature she wants. And when she's been placed under this metal net by Stefan, with the last bit of her strength, she turns Diaval into the dragon, this iconic dragon from the original. And it was just so cool the way he turned, like the raven turned into a dragon, and then starts breathing fire and lifts the cage off Maleficent. Even though I was a little mad because half of Maleficent's power is in the original film was that she could turn into a dragon. It was just so cool, and I was so excited because I hadn't expected a battle scene so late in the film, because the film was a lot shorter than I thought it would be. I think they did some reshoots in 2013, and that concerned the first half of the film. They left the last 75 minutes alone, but the film at the end only ended up being 98 minutes, and I thought at one point it was 2 hours and 11 minutes long. So, yeah, but Philip isn't even in this scene because Philip, Aurora's boyfriend, I suppose you could say. But yeah, so she gets Aurora to leave because she doesn't want her to get hurt. And Aurora goes and finds Maleficent's wings, which of course Stefan has stolen from her. And she knocks the cage that they're in down and it smashes, and the wings by themselves just fly off to Maleficent. Because at this point it's looking pretty bad. She's surrounded by metal shields, so she can't move anywhere. And Diaval in his dragon form, he's got chains thrown around him, his mouth is shut, so he can't breathe fire as much. And just when all hope seems to be lost, because Stefan's coming at her in full battle armor, so she can't touch him. Her wings come back and attach to her back, and at this point she's in her more iconic clothing, the full black, with the full black horns, it's wrapped halfway around her face. And then she's got the wings as well. which is where the poster came from, because I thought she appeared in her sort of the brown costume with the wings and just the horns, and then after that her wings were stolen and she changed into the more traditional black with the black headdress and everything. But there's film posters with her in that black costume with the wings as well. So that's where that poster comes from. And just the special effects when they fused back onto her back was really cool. It was like welding almost. But then she suddenly starts to get the upper hand. She frees Diaval. She fights off half the soldiers with her wings. She's dodging all these spears and arrows being thrown at her. And I think, looking back after I'd seen the whole film, this might have been why she was so upset about losing her wings. Like, obviously she loved them, but in the earlier battle scene against King Henry, who later died, she's using her wings to knock people out of the way, to create these huge gusts and knocking over soldiers. And there's that scene where she's landing in front of everyone before she summons the tree warriors and the dragon, and she's just using her wings to fight. She's not using her magic at all. And so when later her wings were taken away, she starts relying on her magic more. So she's still more powerful because she does more with her magic than just cast spells and throw lightning bolts like she does in the original. She's like controlling plant life, healing trees. She's making storms inside houses, and she's telekinetically moving soldiers and shooting green fire everywhere and casting curses that are so strong even she can't break them. But at the same time, she has to rely on Diaval to see everything, and she has to turn Diaval into a horse to get to the castle. She can't teleport like she could in the original film. In fact, that was one of the iconic scenes from the original. She appeared in these green, like, flames, which they use green flames when she casts spells for the rest of the film, but she doesn't teleport, and so she has to use Diaval because she's so used to using her wings. So the fact that they were her main defense, she obviously loved them, and she said when she was reminiscing about them, they never let me down. So maybe that would explain, evidently, other than the fact that she was very upset with this friend who she trusted, and she found it very difficult to trust humans because they destroyed her lands, they invaded the moors, and they were in possession of metal, which could obviously do a lot of damage. But she relied on her wings so much when she was stolen. That could have easily been a lot of the reason why she became as wicked as she did. But then of course, she finds out that Stefan stole them so that he could further his own ambition. And so I think that was a good way to go about it. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about. Sorry if this is too boring, I'm just rambling on, but I really liked this film, and there were so many things I couldn't talk to my friends about because they either don't care or they haven't seen the film yet and they don't want me to spoil it for them. But I loved the battle scene between King Henry and Maleficent and her army, and there's, in all of the really early releases, she rises up as her land's most fiercest protector. And that scene where she's summoning the tree warriors and then what do they call it in the trailer? The gigantic or the gargantuan forest dragon, when that comes up from the ground, that was just really cool. And even though you barely see it during the actual battle scene, it's popping out of the ground and destroying multiple soldiers. The tree warriors are extremely strong, and you never see any fatalities on their side. And even the sheer look of all of them sends half of the soldiers running before the battle's even half over. But then, of course, there's Maleficent, who's taking on the men left, right, and centre with gusts of wind, and she's attacking them directly. And it was just a great scene. I think what added to it is she was yelling and screaming and getting in King Henry's face. Well, she wasn't screaming, but she was definitely angry. And he just sort of raised his arm to defend his base, like, don't hit me. But, because he was wearing a suit of armour, it left like a scar from where it had burnt Maleficent sort of right here, where it pushed her, and that was one of the scenes in the trailer that after they released the third trailer, which showed that she had wings in this adaptation, that used to assume, they pushed her off a cliff and maybe her wings were damaged or something, and someone stole them afterwards, I don't know, but it was really just him pushing her away from him, and it had more effect because he was wearing a suit of armour, and the suit of armour burns their skin. But she healed like 2 seconds after, so that's another thing, that she's more powerful than her counterpart in the original. Because if she did have this healing power, maybe she didn't have it in her dragon form because it used that much magic to turn into it, but she might have been able to survive the sword. But then again, it was embedded in her, and if she was scarred by metal anyway, then maybe when it did it to her internal organ, she can heal again. Just theories here. Now I think maybe talk about things I didn't like so much. It's not necessarily a negative, but in some of the earlier releases, it describes Stefan as a half-human, half-fairy bastard child. So his parents weren't married, and that's never mentioned in the film. And I think that has a lot to do with the reshoots that changed certain things, and they didn't feature Angelina Jolie because she was filming something else or being a director somewhere, I don't know. But it was evidently in scenes where the other two actresses were showing her in her younger years, and it doesn't mention that. But then there's that scene where Maleficent and Stefan are having a showdown, and they're surrounded by shields, so she can't walk away, and she doesn't have her wings at that point. Aurora hadn't smashed the cage, so she couldn't fly away, and he says, "How does it feel to be a fairy who cannot fly?" And I think that might have been in the original script, without the reshoots or the cuts. It might have been sort of referring to him because he was only half fairy, so he couldn't fly. He didn't fit into either world. He was not fully human, not fully fairy. And so, as opposed to just mocking him, she was sort of saying, "Now, how does it feel? This is how I felt." Just speculation. But I was thinking about it at the time. And they also cut out, they had in the original cast Miranda Richardson as Queen Ulla, that's how you pronounce it. And she was going to play Maleficent's aunt, who disliked her niece, Maleficent. And she never appeared in the film either, so presumably she was cut out during the reshoot as well. But the only reason I'm really disappointed about that is I'm a big Miranda Richardson fan, and I think that if she was playing sort of an evil queen, she would have done a good job because she played Snow White's stepmother in Snow White Paris at the Mall, and she got really good reviews for that, and I liked her in that role as well. So it might have been a good role for her as well. And the other thing, this may be just personal for me, I don't know if anybody else had an issue with it, but Maleficent has that scene where she finds out that Stefan betrayed her for political power, what should we call it now, and the massive upward stream of the green evil magic almost streams up, and I was sort of thinking, maybe this will be where she changes to her more traditional form. But no, she didn't. She just kind of appeared at the christening with no explanation as to why she's suddenly wearing all black and she's got leather wrapped around her head. She just appears like that. Maybe she just wanted to change her wardrobe. She's been wearing that same outfit God knows how long. But yeah, I just could have been maybe a pure heart turning to stone as a result. Maybe that part of the head changed. I don't know. Just a personal thing. But later, when Aurora wakes up, she's wearing sort of a snakeskin thing, so it sort of implies that it's optional, especially at the end of the film when she goes back to her original look and she's just got the horns. She doesn't have any head wrap or anything. But And there was another thing. The horns with the leather, like especially at the christening, looked really good. And I didn't really mind just the plain horns, just Angelina Jolie in that brown dress thing, and she had her hair and the horns coming out of the hair, that was fine. But the snake skin and the in-between horns, they just weren't as cool for me. Again, just a personal thing. But the main problem I had with it was, if this was a standalone film, I don't think it would be that much of an issue. But it's not. It's a reimagining of the original Sleeping Beauty, especially because it's made by the same studio. And there's scenes that just didn't need to be cut out. Like, there's a scene that's quite iconic at the time when the three good fairies are trying to make a dress and a cake without using magic, and they're very unsuccessful. And so they use magic to do it, and that's one of the most prominent displays of magic in the film, other than Maleficent casting her spell and shooting lightning bolts at her servants. But that doesn't appear. They just sort of present her with a three-layer cake that looks like Play-Doh that's been painted in icing. I suppose they cut that out because there was no need for Diaval, the Raven, to go looking for Aurora, because they knew she was there the whole time. Maleficent's a lot smarter in this adaptation. She doesn't leave it to her villains to find out where Aurora is. She just follows her from the beginning. She even saves her life at one point. Aurora is running off a cliff because the fairies aren't paying attention to her. She's running towards a cliff, and she falls off, and it makes it look like Maleficent's going to let her fall, but at the last minute, she's used her magic on a tree once to raise her back up again. It also portrays the fairies as very neglectful, and they don't know anything about taking care of a baby. They try to feed her carrots. So it's Maleficent and Diaval keeping her alive, essentially. Which I suppose, because Maleficent didn't really know her, get to know her until she was 15. It could be, well, I have to spend all this time casting a curse on you. I ain't letting you die before it takes place. So you could sort of see it as that. And that was quite a funny scene too, when Maleficent's behind a tree and the baby won't stop crying because nobody's feeding it. And she's sort of there, I can't stand this. And she sends Diaval in to rock the cradle and give her like a flower to drink milk out of. But, and what else? Philip really wasn't in the film. He probably had about 2, maybe 3 minutes screen time in total. And one of the really good things about the original film was that fight scene between Maleficent and Philip. And obviously that doesn't happen because A, Maleficent's not the dragon. B, Philip hardly appears. He's shoved out by the fairies after he fails to awake Aurora. And I lost my train of thought. And Maleficent never captures Philip. Well, she does, but she takes him to Aurora instead of keeping him away from her, which is quite a different spin. And so that wasn't there. And I remember reading that in Maleficent's death scene, when she's hit by the sword, there's blood showing, and there's a very visible wound. And apparently that was I haven't seen every Disney film in Walt Disney's lifetime, but that was the most bloodiest villain's death in Walt Disney's lifetime. And this is certainly a more darker adaptation. And I was surprised actually when it got a PG rating. I thought it might have been M, but it's supposed to be a kids' film from the beginning, so I can see why it was. They kept it PG because kids' movies make more money. Like G-rated films, I know this is PG, but it's still a kids' film. But G-rated films make more money than any other rating. So, and like the lowest percentage of films that come out of Hollywood are G-rated. But of course, multiple children, children have to have supervision. So, sorry, going sidetracked. quite violent scenes in Maleficent, and I just thought of that because Maleficent's death scene was supposedly was the goriest in Walt Disney's lifetime. Maybe there's been a gorier one since he died. I'm not sure. But another thing I had issue with was that's getting bad. I'm really losing my train of thought now. I think. Oh yeah, the man that played Stefan, he just randomly had a Scottish accent. Now, I realised that Maleficent is set in England and Maleficent is supposed to be English, and Angelina Jolie has done an English accent before, and it works considerably well here. But he just randomly had a Scottish accent, and it was worse than Shrek's, is what many critics have written. And I didn't know that he was trying to do a Scottish accent for Shrek, but he was just trying too hard. I don't think he needed to. He could have just spoke with a standard accent, because it's not like he's an actual real life character. Like, it's not him playing Winston Churchill, whereas if he hadn't done a good English accent, he would have been blasted by critics. But it's not a very sympathetic character anyway, so just giving him another thing to be attacked on, like his bad accent, just really wasn't helping. Anyway, moving on. Other than that, production design was really good, and I think because of Robert Stromberg, this is his directorial debut, and he's won 2 Oscars for art design for Alice in Wonderland and Avatar, which were very successful films, and Alice in Wonderland is also a live-action fairy tale. So I think if the production design hadn't been good in this film, he would have never directed again. Because as a director, he had more control over that kind of thing, so he could really implement his vision. And some people had issue with the special effects, but I didn't personally. I thought some of them were really good, like the dragon transformation scene, as I mentioned, was really good, and the fire sound effects were pretty good. And I found that I'm only mentioning this because in the original film, they properly recorded it. They used like a flamethrower to have Maleficent's fire sound, and of course they cancel that out by saying the noise that Maleficent's dragon makes when it snaps its jaws is actually a castanet. They didn't get a huge lizard or something to make the noise, but the fire sounds in that film were made from real flamethrowers. But they were really good in this. I don't know if they used flamethrowers or not, but they could. It would be a lot easier back then. I think they had to borrow them from the army or something. And I haven't heard the soundtrack, but the music that I remember from the film, other than Once Upon a Dream, was good too. And it's composed by James Newton Howard, who I loved his work in The Hunger Games, and he's had some Oscar nominations for Best Original Score, and he's quite famous for his work in film scores nowadays. And Elle Fanning did a pretty good job, actually. I was kind of surprised because in the very first trailer, which was met with really good reviews because Angelina Jolie only said about 4 words in it, but yet it was so positively received, and she's been. Sorry about the noise, it's my roommate. Wow, this review is going to be really long, so I better wrap up soon. And another thing, Grace Randolph from the Beyond the Trailer YouTube channel, I'll provide a link to her reviews of the film. I haven't watched her spoilers one yet, but I have watched the non-spoilers one. Something she brought up was the film is very negative towards men because there's sort of 3 male characters, 4 actually. There's King Stefan, King Henry, Dival, and Prince Philip. Prince Philip barely appears in the film. I think he was described as being a glorified cameo by a critic from the Daily News, I believe. King Henry is obviously, he was presented as he really wanted to conquer the moors where Maleficent lived before the end of his reign. And and he dies after facing Maleficent, and he inspires Stefan to go and kill Maleficent. He doesn't, thank God, but and overall, a basic representation of what the fairies thought of humans as selfish, self-serving, and violent. And of course, Stefan betrays someone who is his friend when he had nothing, and gave her true love's kiss, which is later why she curses Aurora and says she can be freed by true love's kiss because she finds the idea so stupid, like it doesn't exist. Really sorry. I'm sorry that this review is going so long as well. But anyway, Stefan became very evil, and he became almost insane. Like, it's mentioned that his wife might not survive the night, and he just stays there talking to Maleficent's wings. And I don't know if Maleficent could hear him, but I doubt she could. And he doesn't even go to see his wife, so I'm assuming he didn't see his wife before she died. So that was a little cruel. And he makes his iron workers, as I've mentioned, iron is lethal to fairies. He gets his iron workers to wake up at 2 a.m. or something to make more iron because he knows she's coming because Aurora's birthday is approaching. And he locks Aurora in a room, evidently a not well picked room because there's a secret doorway, and she puts her finger, and then Maleficent shows him mercy. After she's got her wings back, she could have easily killed him in multiple ways, but she doesn't. He attacks her, they fall off the balcony, she evidently can fly so she doesn't get hurt, he falls off a tower of the castle and dies. And I'm glad it wasn't graphic, it was sort of like, you see him falling, it shows Maleficent's reaction, and then he's on the ground, not moving. There's no blood, you don't see him actually hit impact, which thank God, this is a kid's film. But, yes. So yeah, it is a little negative towards men, but I don't think it's necessarily a men's thing in this film. I think they could have put a female in the same role and had Maleficent as a male. Obviously that's not going to work, but I think it's more the fairies were betrayed by humans, and humans are selfish and self-serving. I'm not saying we are, although sometimes being a fairy would be kind of cool, but never mind. I think it was more a representation of greed, not necessarily men are very rude and cruel to females and betray them to further their own ambitions. I think it was more a human thing. That's just my opinion, but I do think Philip should have been featured more because he's one of the more iconic princes. I mean, he's not just called the prince, he actually has a name, and he's shown at the start of the film, he's shown at the end of the film, he's a hero, and Sleeping Beauty didn't need to be saved. She was just sleeping, she couldn't be defending herself. But in this film, he barely appears. He does appear at the end, so maybe he was just crushing Aurora. He didn't love her enough because he just met her. Maybe Disney is presenting us really realistic standards. I mean, in Frozen they said you shouldn't marry someone you've just met. Maybe you don't fall in love on the first date. I also thought it was really cool that Maleficent was the one that woke her up. And the really impassioned speech she gave, and it could have been easy to cry with those contacts in, but Angelina was wearing. She gives this really impassioned speech. What? No. Sorry. And then she kisses her on the forehead and wakes her up. I think it was really cool that maybe that they didn't represent love as just one thing. Love doesn't have to be between them. Like, it doesn't have to be a romantic love. It's sort of a mother-daughter thing, because the fairies weren't looking after Aurora, and her mother hadn't seen her since she was a baby and died before she came back. So this was just the closest thing she'd had to a mother, and something quite funny that somebody brought up, I think someone commented on one of the trailers, that the reason Maleficent tried to remove the curse from Aurora was she had said in her part of her curse, loved by all who meet her. So Maleficent meets her and she starts loving her. I thought it was kind of funny. Maybe it's an angle that they could have used, but yeah, I thought it was quite a beautiful scene. And yeah, it was nice to think that maybe love doesn't have to be so defined and controlled. Love is an emotion, not something that is restricted to just someone you have romantic feelings for. So I thought that was that was probably one of my favourite scenes, other than the little fight scene when she turns Diablo into a dragon. Yeah, overall I really liked this film, and in my opinion it would be really cool if Angelina Jolie could be nominated for an Oscar for this. I know it doesn't normally happen, but Julie Andrews won an Oscar for Mary Poppins, which is a kids' film, and a magical kids' film as well. So it has precedence, it wouldn't be the first time. And she's just so good in this role, and she portrays. So I think if you took out the fact that this is a kids' film, and it's got magical in it, like magical elements, but that it's basically like another Oscar-nominated film. It shows a relationship between a mother and a child almost, and shows a range of emotions, and she's playing this evil character that has softer on the inside and is human after all. And it was just so good. It'd be really cool if she could be nominated. And I think if she doesn't win the Saturn Award for Best Actress, which is for like sci-fi and magical flicks, then she's been robbed. But we'll see. It'd be really cool if she was. Like, she could even win if they actually nominate her, because I don't know who her competition is. I can't predict that yet. Although I'm a big Amy Adams fan, and I really think she should be nominated for her upcoming role in Tim Burton's Big Eyes, where she portrays Margaret King. Sorry, I'm going off track again. But yeah, I love the film. Angelina Jolie was great in it, and the magical scenes were magical. And yeah, if you want more information on the film, I suggest you go to Beyond the Trailers YouTube channel. It's hosted by Grace Randolph, who is an amazing film analysis, and I've subscribed to her channel. You should too. And I hope you enjoyed this review. Sorry if I wasted all of your time. Like and subscribe.